Ellison & Stein's boardroom was a fortress of corporate elitism, but Claire Evans stood at its heart, her frayed canvas shoes and unpressed blouse a silent challenge to the executives who mocked her as a charity hire. They tore her presentation to shreds, laughed as they dismissed her worth, and bet she'd crumble under their scorn. Nobody knew. The quiet woman they humiliated was Stratagem Media's founder and their incoming CEO. Until Nathaniel Hale, her husband, walked in, revealed her power, and bought the company to bury their arrogance in corporate dust. The Ellison & Stein boardroom on the 48th floor of Houston's gleaming skyline was a cathedral of corporate power, its glass walls and polished mahogany table, reflecting the morning sunlight like a mirror of untouchable wealth. The air was thick with the scent of espresso and ambition, the room buzzing with the murmurs of executives cloaked in designer suits and diamond cufflinks, their every gesture a testament to their self-anointed supremacy. Claire Evans stood at the head of the table, a solitary figure in a white blouse faintly wrinkled from a long night's work, her frayed canvas shoes scuffing the pristine floor, her presentation folder clutched like a quiet rebellion against the room's opulence. The boardroom, with its holographic displays, leather-bound portfolios, and panoramic views of the city, was a battleground for the elite, where deals were struck and legacies forged, not a place for the unpolished or the unpedigreed. At 9:00 a.m., the head of marketing, a man with a silver tie pin and a sneer sharper than his cufflinks, didn't bother to look up as he launched his assault, his voice slicing through the room's hum like a scalpel. "Who do you think you are? This is where power plays happen, not some rundown career fair from whatever backwater you crawled out of." He sneered, his words deliberate, each syllable crafted to wound as he flipped through her folder with theatrical disdain. Claire's gaze, calm and unyielding, met his without a word, her silence a wall that only fueled his arrogance. The executives around the table leaned in their smirks, synchronized their laughter, a practiced ritual that echoed across the glass walls. The presentation folder was ripped from her arms, flung onto the table like discardable waste, the pages scattering as if her ideas were as worthless as her attire. The audience's blood boiled at the vicious public dismissal that marked her as an intruder in their corporate fortress. The live stream cameras set up for the board's promotional feed, zooming in on her unpressed blouse, framing it as evidence of her unworthiness. The crowd, a mix of C-suite titans, corporate heirs, and strategic consultants, sized her up with sneers, their whispers a mocking rhythm that reverberated through the sterile space. Claire's posture, deliberate and unyielding, held firm, but her lack of designer labels or corporate pedigree made her invisible to the elite who ruled Ellison & Stein. Claire lingered near the boardroom's digital whiteboard, her fingers tracing a flowchart she'd prepared, when a cadre of senior financial analysts, their bespoke cufflinks glinting with smug superiority, descended upon her, their laughter a venomous shroud that smothered the room's ambient hum. A gaunt analyst with a sapphire tie clip strode forward, his voice a sneering crescendo that reverberated across the glass walls. "What's this, a typist pretending she can scribble on our whiteboard?" he scoffed, clutching his encrypted tablet like a badge of dominion. "That blouse is so drab it's howling peon, and those shoes, they're a disgrace to Ellison & Stein's pedigree. This is a sanctum for fiscal titans where we sculpt wealth, not where you come to doodle your pathetic charts. You're defiling our space just by breathing our air, sweetheart. Why don't you skitter back to whatever clerical hole you slunk out of before you ruin our analytics with your dim-witted sketches?" The analysts roared, some flicking stylus caps at her feet, their taunts a merciless onslaught that echoed through the boardroom. A hedge fund heiress in a silk scarf smirked, her nod fueling their cruelty as the live stream cameras zoomed in on Claire's frayed canvas shoes, framing them as proof of her inferiority. Claire adjusted her flowchart, her posture unyielding, her face an unreadable mask, her silence a bulwark against their venom. But the weight of their scorn crushed like a vice, the audience's rage surging at the orchestrated public shaming that targeted her intellectual effort and socioeconomic status. The humiliation escalated as the head of marketing leaned back in his chair, his silver pen twirling with casual cruelty, his voice a venomous drawl that carried over the room's murmurs. "You must be the intern we let in to meet some diversity quota. That blouse is so cheap it's screaming discount rack. And those shoes, they're an insult to this boardroom's prestige. This is Ellison & Stein, where we shape industries, not where you come to play executive with your sad little folder." Honestly, it's almost tragic you thought you could sit at this table. Why don't you scuttle back to whatever temp agency spat you out before you waste our time with your pedestrian ideas? The executives erupted in laughter, their cheers a storm that humiliated Claire in front of the board, some tossing her scattered pages across the table. Their hashtags, #charity, higher trending within minutes on the company's internal chat. A senior strategist, her diamond earrings glinting, leaned forward, her whisper meant for all to hear. We call her the charity hire. Poor thing doesn't even have the face to sit in this room. The cameras captured Claire's steady hands. Her blouse slightly creased her face, an unreadable mask. Her silence, a coiled spring that only fueled their arrogance. The audience's rage boiling over at the vicious public execution of her dignity that marked her as an outcast in their corporate shrine. Navigating the boardroom's refreshment station to pour a glass of water, Claire was accosted by a clique of corporate legal advisors, their tailored blazers and gold pins radiating judicial arrogance, their laughter a barbed torrent that drowned out the clink of glassware. A wiry advisor with a diamond lapel pin swaggered forward, his voice a mocking drawl that sliced through the station's buzz. "Behold a nobody daring to sip from our crystal," he jeered, waving his legal brief like a gavel. "Those trousers are so worn they're shrieking pauper, and that blouse, it's a mockery of Ellison & Stein's stature. This is a fortress for legal eagles, where we carve contracts, not where you come to guzzle our water with your sad little hands. You're tainting our sanctity just by standing here looking like you've staggered in from a soup kitchen. Why don't you bolt back to whatever hovel you call home before you spoil our station with your grubby touch?" The advisors cackled, some tossing sugar packets at her feet, their taunts a relentless barrage that echoed through the room. A patent lawyer in a velvet vest smirked her nod, stoking their cruelty as the cameras panned to Claire's unpressed blouse, framing it as evidence of her failure. Claire poured her water, her movements precise, her face impassive, her silence a shield against their venom, the audience's fury erupting at the coordinated assault that targeted her basic act and worth. In the midst of the boardroom's polished chaos, the vice president of strategy, a woman draped in a designer blazer that cost more than Claire's annual rent, waved a hand with theatrical finality, her voice cutting through the laughter like a guillotine. "Cancel her presentation. Her proposal's more suited for some hipster cafe startup. We don't have time for pipe dreams from someone who doesn't know her place." She sneered, her emerald ring flashing as she shoved Claire's folder into a shredder, the machine's whine a mocking anthem that drowned out the room's hum. "That folder's so flimsy it's screaming amateur, and that blouse. It's an insult to Ellison & Stein's legacy. This is a boardroom for visionaries where we dictate markets, not where you come to peddle your sad little ideas. You're lucky we're only shredding your CV today, not escorting you out of this building." The executives roared their cheers a tidal wave, some tossing coffee stirrers at her feet, their hashtags, #BackwaterDreamer, surging alongside #CharityHire. The VP's smirk was a blade, her voice a whip that lashed at Claire's competence, the camera zooming in on the shredded pages, framing them as proof of her failure. Claire stood motionless, her hands steady, her face impassive, her silence a fortress against their venom, the audience's rage erupting at the coordinated public assault that targeted her work and worth. Positioned near the boardroom's panoramic window, Claire gazed at the Houston skyline, her mind mapping strategic pivots when a swarm of corporate PR specialists, their silk ties and designer glasses exuding polished malice, encircled her, their laughter a venomous gale that stifled the room's hum. A slick specialist with a gold-plated smartwatch stepped forward, his voice a sneering roar that reverberated across the glass. "What's this? A clerk daydreaming by our skyline?" he taunted, clutching his media plan like a trophy. "That blouse is so cheap it's wailing loser. And those shoes. They're a travesty in Ellison & Stein's domain. This is a stage for spin masters where we craft narratives, not where you come to stare with your sad little dreams. You're polluting our view just by existing here, looking like you've wandered in from a dive bar. Why don't you shuffle back to whatever pit you call home before you ruin our optics with your pitiful gaze?" The specialist roared, some flicking branded notepads at her feet, their taunts a merciless onslaught that echoed through the room. A branding guru in a cashmere suit smirked his nod, fueling their cruelty, as the camera zoomed in on Claire's frayed shoes, framing them as proof of her inadequacy. Claire studied the skyline, her posture rigid, her face a mask of stone, her silence a defiance that went unnoticed, the audience's rage erupting at the coordinated assault that targeted her contemplation and worth. As Claire stood at the boardroom's edge, her folder now confetti, a group of corporate consultants, their tailored vests and gold watches exuding strategic arrogance, closed in their laughter, a venomous net that silenced the room's ambient buzz. A lean consultant with a silver pen stepped forward, his voice a sneering bellow that carried over the clink of coffee cups. "What's this, a secretary thinking she can loiter in our boardroom?" he mocked, waving his analytics tablet like a royal decree. "Those shoes are so worn, they're screaming pauper. And that blouse, it's an insult to Ellison and Stein's class. This is a war room for titans where we reshape empires, not where you come to daydream with your sad little papers. You're polluting our space just by breathing our air, darling. Why don't you crawl back to whatever cubicle you call home before you waste our strategies with your ignorant presence?" The consultants roared, some tossing crumpled sticky notes at her feet, their taunts a relentless barrage that echoed through the glass walls. A hedge fund exec in a silk tie smirked his nod, fueling their cruelty as the camera zoomed in on Claire's frayed shoes, framing them as proof of her inadequacy. Claire stood by the table, her posture rigid, her face a mask of stone, her silence a shield against their venom, the audience's fury erupting at the coordinated public assault that targeted her presence and worth. Hovering near the boardroom's data analytics console, Claire examined a revenue projection screen, her eyes tracing trends when a pack of corporate tech advisors, their smartwatches and encrypted earpieces radiating digital supremacy, pounced their laughter, a venomous deluge that drowned out the console's hum. A lanky advisor with a platinum stylus stepped forward, his voice a mocking bellow that echoed across the screens. "What's this, a receptionist thinking she can parse our data?" he sneered, waving his analytics dashboard like a scepter. "Those shoes are so tattered they're screaming nobody. And that blouse, it's a disgrace to Ellison and Stein's tech. This is a hub for innovators where we decode markets, not where you come to squint at our screens with your sad little eyes. You're corrupting our systems just by standing here looking like you've stumbled in from a call center. Why don't you scurry back to whatever desk you call home before you crash our metrics with your clueless gawking?" The advisors cackled, some tossing USB drives at her feet, their taunts a relentless barrage that reverberated through the room. A fintech mogul in a silk blazer smirked her nod, stoking their cruelty as the camera zoomed in on Claire's canvas shoes, framing them as proof of her failure. Claire analyzed the projections, her posture unyielding, her face impassive, her silence a fortress against their venom, the audience's fury erupting at the coordinated assault that targeted her analytical focus and worth. When Claire attempted to retrieve her scattered notes, a group of junior executives, their bespoke suits and designer glasses radiating youthful ambition, swarmed her, their laughter a venomous torrent that drowned out the room's hum. A cocky exec with a gold-plated watch stepped forward, his voice a sneering lilt that carried over the rustle of papers. "What's this attempt thinking she can salvage her little scribbles?" he mocked, waving his corporate badge like a weapon. "That blouse is so cheap, it's screaming failure. And those shoes, they're an insult to Ellison and Stein's future. This is a boardroom for winners where we build legacies, not where you come to cling to your sad little notes. You're tarnishing our brand just by standing here looking like you've wandered in from a thrift shop. Why don't you vanish back to whatever dive you call home before you ruin our meeting with your pathetic effort?" The juniors roared, some tossing paper clips at her feet, their taunts a relentless barrage that echoed through the room. A venture capitalist in a velvet blazer smirked her nod, fueling their cruelty, as the camera zoomed in on Claire's scattered notes, framing them as proof of her defeat. Claire gathered her papers, her movements deliberate, her face impassive, her silence a fortress against their venom, the audience's fury erupting at the coordinated public assault that targeted her effort and worth. Retreating to the boardroom's corner to collect her thoughts, Claire stood by a potted plant, her fingers brushing its leaves when a gaggle of corporate event planners, their designer scarves and gold-plated planners exuding orchestrated elegance, swarmed her, their laughter a venomous vortex that silenced the room's buzz. A poised planner with a pearl-encrusted brooch stepped forward, her voice a sneering lilt that carried over the rustle of agendas. "What's this, a nobody thinking she can hide in our corner?" she mocked, waving her event itinerary like a royal proclamation. "That blouse is so plain, it's shrieking failure. And those shoes, they're a blight on Ellison and Stein's image." This is a boardroom for orchestrators where we stage triumphs, not where you come to cower with your sad little dreams. You're spoiling our elegance just by lurking here looking like you've wandered in from a thrift shop. Why don't you vanish back to whatever slum you call home before you ruin our ambiance with your pathetic presence? The planners roared some tossing floral pins at her feet, their taunts a relentless barrage that echoed through the room. A gala coordinator in a velvet dress smirked her nod, fueling their cruelty as the camera zoomed in on Claire's frayed shoes, framing them as proof of her defeat. Claire touched the plant, her posture rigid, her face a mask of stone, her silence a bulwark against their venom. The audience's fury erupting at the coordinated assault that targeted her moment of respite and worth. The glass door swung open and Nathaniel Hale stepped through, his bespoke gray suit and polished shoes, a quiet storm that froze the boardroom's laughter. No assistant trailed him, no grand announcement preceded him. Just the weight of his presence, his eyes scanning the room with a cold precision that silenced every whisper. The executives' smirks vanished, their coffee cups trembling, the air sucked from the room as if gravity itself had shifted. Nathaniel's voice, low and unyielding, cut through the silence like a blade, each word a calculated strike that shattered the room's arrogance. I was just passing by to observe how the company I'm about to acquire is being run. But instead, I find a room full of self-important employees wasting time belittling their future CEO. He declared, his gaze locking onto the head of marketing's ashen face, his tailored cuffs gleaming under the LED lights. Claire Evans Hale, my wife, will oversee Ellison & Stein's restructuring once the acquisition finalizes next week. Yes, she dresses plainly. Because she spends her time making money, not obsessing over LinkedIn engagement metrics like the rest of you. The crowd didn't breathe. Their smartphones lowering their hashtags, #CharityHire, buried under whispers of disbelief. The cameras captured Claire's unflinching gaze, her canvas shoes now a badge of her triumph, her silence a defiant rebuke to the sabotage that had sought to break her. The audience's satisfaction surged, their rage at the initial cruelty transformed into awe at Nathaniel's revelation, each word a lash against the antagonist's pride. The VP of strategy who'd shredded her work stood trembling, her emerald ring dull, her influence erased by Claire's brilliance. The boardroom's glass walls, once a stage for scorn, now framed her victory, each syllable a testament to her enduring dignity. Nathaniel's announcement that Claire was the founder of Stratagem Media, the competitor that nearly devoured Ellison & Stein, sealed the antagonist's humiliation, their legacy reduced to a footnote, the audience's hearts pounding with pride at her ascent. Nathaniel's revelation froze the boardroom, Claire's unpressed blouse now a radiant emblem of her dominion. The glass-walled chamber transformed into a hallowed arena where her legacy was forged. A revered corporate ethics consultant whose audits had toppled corrupt empires stepped forward from the sidelines, her presence a thunderclap that silenced the executives' gasps, her voice a resonant proclamation that shattered the remnants of the head of marketing's scorn. Claire Evans Hale, your stratagem. Strategy is a masterwork of ethical leadership, a blueprint that will redefine corporate integrity. She declared, her eyes fixed on Claire's canvas shoes, now symbols of her supremacy. The Global Business Ethics Council will honor you with its highest award for transformative governance. The cameras swept across Claire's unflinching gaze, her frayed shoes a badge of her victory, her silence a defiant rebuke to the sabotage that had sought to erase her. The audience's satisfaction surged, their rage at the initial cruelty transformed into awe at the consultant's tribute, each word a lash against the antagonist's pride. The head of marketing, his tie-pin trembling, stood frozen, his corporate empire crumbling as social media erupted with #StratagemQueen, drowning his #CharityHire hashtags. The press, their pens a blur, framed Claire as the silent architect, her intellect a supernova that outshone their betrayal, the air thick with the weight of her triumph and their disgrace. The strategist who'd shredded her work stood trembling, her ring dull, her influence erased by Claire's brilliance. The boardroom's displays framed her victory, each award a testament to her enduring dignity. The consultant's pledge to advise Claire's restructuring sealed the antagonist's humiliation, their legacy reduced to a footnote, the audience's hearts pounding with pride at her ascent. The truth unfolded like a corporate coup as Claire's shadow loomed over the boardroom, her name a legend whispered in industry circles. She was the founder of Stratagem Media, the rival that had outmaneuvered Ellison and Stein 2 years prior, nearly driving it to collapse before Hale Holdings executed a stealth merger to save it. Nathaniel had sent Claire to infiltrate the company to take its cultural temperature before purging its rot, her plain attire a deliberate disguise to expose the board's prejudice. The presentation they had shredded was Stratagem's 5-year overhaul strategy, crafted under Claire's leadership to rescue Ellison and Stein from its own mismanagement. Claire stepped forward, her blouse a mantle of unassailable authority, her voice cool as tempered steel, each syllable a guillotine that severed the executive's arrogance. "I don't need your approval. I just need you out of the company I now own," she declared, her eyes locking onto the VP's trembling frame, her signature landing on the acquisition contracts like a quiet execution. The crowd gasped, the cameras capturing every second, the audience's satisfaction soaring as the head of marketing's face collapsed, his silver tie pin trembling, his corporate empire crumbling under the weight of his shame. To the strategist, Claire's gaze was a blade, her verdict final. "Your strategies failed this company. Mine will save it." The consultants who'd tossed notes stood silent, their vests relics of their failure, their hashtags, #backwater dreamer buried under #stratagem, Queen Trends. Before the press, Claire revealed a dossier of Ellison and Stein's financial mismanagement, her voice unwavering. "This company will thrive under merit, not malice." The executives scrambled to pack their personal effects. No rebuttals, no second chances. Their laughter replaced by the sound of their own disgrace. Claire's poised figure commanded the boardroom, her frayed shoes now emblems of unassailable authority, the glass walls a monument to her genius. A prominent industry analyst whose reports had shaped global markets emerged from the press scrum, his presence a storm that silenced the executives' murmurs, his voice a resonant decree that obliterated the last echoes of the VP's mockery. "Claire Evans Hale, your stratagem overhaul is a paradigm shift, a legacy that will redefine corporate strategy," he declared, his eyes locked on Claire's blouse, now a mantle of triumph. "The International Strategy Institute will dedicate a research fellowship in your name to advance innovative leadership." The cameras captured Claire's serene expression, her silence a relentless assault on the cruelty that had sought to diminish her, her canvas shoes a relic of her victory. The audience's satisfaction soared, their fury at the initial taunts transformed into reverence at the analyst's pledge, each word a guillotine slicing through the antagonist's arrogance. The VP of Strategy, her blazer trembling, stood frozen, her corporate empire crumbling as social media buried her, backwater dreamer hashtags under Stratagem Queen Trends. The press, their headlines blazing, framed Claire as the silent architect, her intellect a radiant force that outshone their betrayal, the air thick with the weight of her triumph and their disgrace. The consultants who'd tossed notes sat in stunned silence, their clout erased by Claire's brilliance. The boardroom's table framed her victory, each fellowship a testament to her enduring dignity. The analyst's commitment to fund Claire's leadership initiatives sealed the antagonist's humiliation. Their legacy reduced to ash, the audience's hearts swelling with pride at her coronation. The media erupted their footage of Claire's triumph going viral within hours, the audience's hearts pounding with pride at her surgical vengeance. Rising like a phoenix in the boardroom, Claire's silence was a force that reshaped the corporate landscape, her white blouse a radiant banner of her dominion, the glass walls a cathedral of her triumph. A global corporate governance expert whose reforms had saved failing conglomerates stepped forward from the audience, her presence a thunderclap that silenced the executive's gasps, her voice a resonant decree that obliterated the last vestiges of the strategist's scorn. "Claire Evans Hale, your stratagem. Vision is a beacon for corporate renewal, a legacy that will guide industries," she declared, her eyes fixed on Claire's shoes, now a testament to her victory. "The World Corporate Governance Forum will establish a leadership award in your name to honor visionary CEOs." The cameras captured Claire's unflinching gaze, her silence a defiant rebuke to the sabotage that had sought to break her, her frayed shoes a relic of her triumph. The audience's satisfaction surged, their rage at the initial cruelty transformed into reverence at the expert's pledge, each word a lash against the antagonist's pride. The junior executives who'd tossed clips stood trembling, their glasses irrelevant, their #charity hire hashtags buried under stratagem, Queen Trends that dominated global feeds. The press, their reports blazing, framed Claire as the silent architect, her intellect a radiant force that outshone their betrayal, the air thick with the weight of her triumph and their disgrace. The tech advisors who'd mocked her sat in stunned silence, their clout erased by Claire's brilliance. The boardroom's displays framed her victory, each award a testament to her enduring dignity. The experts' vow to consult on Claire's restructuring sealed the antagonist's humiliation, their legacy reduced to a footnote, the audience's hearts pounding with pride at her ascent. The fallout was seismic. Ellison & Stein's culture of elitism shattered under Claire's iron will. She didn't merely reclaim her place. She transformed the company into a merit-based powerhouse, prioritizing innovation over pedigree, accessible to those with vision, not just wealth. The executives who'd mocked her were terminated their access to corporate networks, revoked their LinkedIn profiles, drowned in condemnation. Their #charity hire hashtags replaced by #stratagem queen. The VP's career became a fading echo, her blazer a relic of her disgrace. The consultants' reputations were obliterated, their names erased from industry circles, their tablets forgotten artifacts. The press uncovered Claire's past, a prodigy who'd built Stratagem Media from nothing, her brilliance honed through years of overcoming corporate sabotage, her anonymity a choice to expose the unworthy. They called her the silent architect, her blouse and shoes now symbols of untouchable authority. Other firms sent her invitations begging for partnerships, but she declined, her silence as powerful as her contract's ink. Commanding the boardroom's center, Claire's presence was a force that redefined corporate power. Her canvas shoes, now emblems of unyielding resolve. The glass walls, a shrine to her supremacy. A legendary business historian whose chronicles had documented corporate empires emerged from the press corps. His presence a storm that silenced the executives' murmurs, his voice a resonant decree that obliterated the last echoes of the consultant's scorn. Claire Evans, hail. Your Stratagem strategy is a chapter in business history, a testament to the unsung who conquer markets. He declared, his eyes fixed on Claire's blouse, now a sacred relic of her victory. The Business History Academy will dedicate a permanent archive to your leadership legacy. The cameras swept across Claire's serene expression, her silence a relentless assault on the cruelty that had sought to diminish her, her shoes a testament to her triumph. The audience's satisfaction soared, their fury at the initial taunts transformed into reverence at the historian's pledge, each word a guillotine slicing through the antagonist's arrogance. The PR specialist who'd mocked her stood trembling, their ties relics of their failure, their backwater dreamer hashtags buried under Stratagem Queen trends that swept social media. The press, their headlines blazing, framed Claire as the silent architect, her intellect, a radiant force that outshone their betrayal, the air thick with the weight of her triumph and their disgrace. The event planners who'd tossed pins sat in stunned silence, their clout erased by Claire's brilliance. The boardroom's table framed her victory, each archive a testament to her enduring dignity. The historian's commitment to publish Claire's story in a landmark volume sealed the antagonist's humiliation, their legacy reduced to ash, the audience's hearts swelling with pride at her coronation. The audience who'd jeered her were left to grapple with their shame, their status erased their clout, a fading echo. Claire's victory wasn't just a takeover, it was a reckoning etched into Ellison & Stein's history, a reminder that the simplest woman could wield the deadliest strategy, the audience's hearts pounding with pride. Ellison & Stein breathed again, its halls now a beacon for dreamers who'd been denied the corporate throne. Claire's leadership trained executives with the precision of her stratagem days. Her team handpicked for integrity, their respect for her absolute, their eyes on the boardroom where she'd silenced the elite. The company's strategies, once tools for the privileged, now served the determined, the media, documenting every deal as a testament to her vision. The corporate titans who'd scoffed were ostracized. Their invitations to elite summits revoked, their influence meaningless against Claire's reach. The juniors who'd tossed clips faced a social media storm, their accounts suspended, their clout buried under Stratagem Queen trends. As Claire prepared to exit the boardroom, a crowd of aspiring executives, industry analysts, and media gathered in the 48th floor lobby, their eyes wide with awe, their chants of Stratagem Queen echoing through the glass atrium. A global corporate innovation pioneer whose strategies had revolutionized industries stepped forward from the throng, her presence a final blow to the antagonist's pride, her voice a resonant proclamation that silenced the city's hum. Claire Evans Hale, your stratagem. Vision is a triumph of innovative leadership, a legacy that will inspire CEOs for generations. She declared, her eyes fixed on Claire's shoes, now symbols of her triumph. The International Innovation Council will name its highest honor after you, celebrating excellence in corporate strategy. The cameras followed Claire's serene silhouette, her blouse a relic of her victory, her silence a legend that would outlive the boardroom. The audience's satisfaction surged, their rage at the initial cruelty transformed into reverence at the pioneer's pledge, each word a lash against the antagonist's pride. The legal advisors who'd tossed packets stood trembling, their pens irrelevant, their charity hire hashtags buried under stratagem queen trends that dominated global feeds. The press, their headlines blazing, framed Claire as the silent architect, her intellect a radiant force that outshone their betrayal, the air thick with the weight of her triumph and their disgrace. The analysts and juniors sat in stunned silence, their clout extinguished by Claire's brilliance. The lobby's glass framed her victory, each honor a testament to her enduring dignity. The pioneer's vow to mentor Claire's team sealed the antagonist's humiliation. Their legacy reduced to a footnote, the audience's hearts pounding with pride at her ascent. Claire's closing statement, delivered to a global audience, echoed like a corporate takeover finalized. I didn't come here for applause. I came to remind you whose company you're standing in. The press framed her as a legend, her acquisition a symbol of justice, her leadership a revolution that redefined corporate power. The audience's satisfaction soared, their rage at the initial cruelty transformed into reverence for her triumph, each word a testament to her enduring dignity. Some battles aren't won with noise, they're won with precision, with patience, with power no one sees coming. If this story struck a chord, hit like, share it, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for every time a Claire Evans walks into a room and reminds the world what true power looks like.